Chapter 1. The First Step to Confidence. Hi, I'm Ariel, and today I want to share a story about the first step in learning to speak English confidently. When I started, I was just like you, nervous, unsure, and frustrated. I thought, how will I ever speak fluently? But over time, I realized that the most important thing was to start. It didn't matter if I made mistakes, it only mattered that I tried. I still remember my very first attempt to speak English. I was standing in a small cafe holding a menu. The words seemed blurry because I was so nervous. The person behind the counter asked, "What can I get for you?" I froze for a second, my heart racing. Then I pointed to a coffee and said, it was a simple phrase, but to me it felt like a mountain I had climbed. The cashier smiled and replied, I felt a small burst of joy. I had spoken English, and it worked. From that day, I learned an important lesson. Starting small is okay. Nobody begins by giving long speeches. Every journey begins with a single step, and speaking a few words is that step. I told myself, Ariel, you don't have to be perfect. Just start. The first step is not just about saying words. It's about building courage. It's about telling yourself, I can do this. When you start, it's normal to feel nervous. I used to worry about people laughing at my mistakes. But do you know what I learned? Most people are kind. They see your effort and they appreciate it. When I made mistakes, people would smile and help me. That made me realize that mistakes are not something to fear. They are part of learning. I also realized that I needed to listen more. Listening helped me understand how words are used and how sentences are built. So I started watching short videos in English. At first, I didn't understand everything, but I focused on the words I knew. I repeated them out loud, even if I was alone. It felt silly at first, but it worked. Over time, I started to understand more. Another thing that helped me was writing down new words. When I heard a word I didn't know, I wrote it in a small notebook. For example, one day I heard someone say, delicious. I asked a friend, what does delicious mean? They explained, it means very tasty. I wrote it down and used it the next time I ate something I liked. I said, this cake is delicious. My friend smiled and said, good job. Moments like these kept me motivated. The most important thing is to practice every day. I started talking to myself in English. Yes, it sounds funny, but it helped me a lot. When I was cooking, I would say, I am cutting vegetables. Now I am boiling water. When I was walking, I would describe what I saw. There's a red car. The sky is blue. It was like having a conversation with myself, and it made me more comfortable using English. When you begin, remember this. It's not about being perfect. It's about trying. Every time you say a word in English, you are getting closer to your goal. Every mistake you make is a lesson learned. Every small step you take is progress. You don't have to be fluent overnight. It's a journey, and every journey starts with a first step. As I sat in that cafe after ordering my coffee, I realized something. Speaking English wasn't just about learning words. It was about believing in myself. It was about saying, I can do this, and so can you. The first step is yours to take. Don't wait for the perfect moment. Start now and let the journey begin. Chapter 2. Breaking Free from Fear. When I first started speaking English, fear was my biggest challenge. My heart would race, my palms would sweat, and my mind would go blank the moment I tried to speak. It wasn't because I didn't know the words. I knew plenty of them. It was because I was afraid of making mistakes. I thought, what if they laugh at me? What if I say something wrong? These thoughts held me back. But one day, something changed. I was in a market trying to buy some fruit. The seller spoke only English, and I had no choice but to try. I pointed to the apples and said, "How much for these?" My voice was shaky, but I got the words out. The seller smiled and replied, $3 for a pound. I nodded, gave him the money, and walked away with my apples. It wasn't perfect, but I had done it. I realized that speaking, even with mistakes, was better than staying silent. That moment taught me an important lesson. Mistakes are not the enemy. They are stepping stones. Every mistake you make helps you learn and grow. If you never try, you never improve. So, I told myself, it's okay to make mistakes. It's part of the process. The truth is, most people don't care about your mistakes. They care about what you're trying to say. I remember once I said, "I need 2 breads," instead of, "I need 2 loaves of bread." The shopkeeper smiled and said, "2 loaves coming right up." She didn't correct me harshly or laugh at me. Instead, she understood what I meant and helped me. Moments like this showed me that people are more forgiving than we think. I also learned to laugh at myself. One day, I was trying to tell a friend that I wanted to practice speaking, but I accidentally said, "practice cooking." She looked confused and then laughed. When I realized my mistake, I laughed too. It wasn't a big deal. In fact, it became a funny memory. Learning to laugh at my mistakes took away the fear and made learning more enjoyable. Another thing that helped me was focusing on the message, not the grammar. When I started, I wanted every sentence to be perfect, but this made me overthink and freeze up. Then I changed my approach. Instead of worrying about perfect grammar, I focused on communicating my ideas. If I didn't know a word, I used simple phrases or gestures to explain. For example, if I didn't know the word umbrella, I'd say the thing that protects you from rain. People always understood, and I felt more confident. Talking to supportive people also made a big difference. I found friends and teachers who encouraged me. They didn't point out every mistake I made. Instead, they celebrated my efforts and helped me improve. If you can, find people like this. They can make your learning journey so much easier. I also started asking for help when I needed it. If I didn't know how to say something, I'd ask, "How do you say this in English?" People were always willing to teach me. I learned that asking questions is not a sign of weakness. It's a sign of wanting to learn. Another way I overcame fear was by preparing for common situations. Before going to a restaurant, I'd practice how to order food. Before asking for directions, I'd practice simple phrases like, "Excuse me, where is the bus stop?" Preparation gave me confidence and made speaking easier. Slowly but surely, my fear started to disappear. The more I practiced, the more I realized that mistakes didn't matter as much as I thought. What mattered was trying, learning, and improving. Every time I spoke, I felt a little braver. So, if you're afraid of speaking, remember this. Fear is normal, but it doesn't have to stop you. Speak, even if it's not perfect. Laugh at your mistakes and learn from them. Find people who encourage you and focus on communicating your ideas. Most importantly, remind yourself that every word you say is a step forward. The next time you feel scared, take a deep breath and try. It doesn't matter if you make a mistake. What matters is that you're trying, and with every try, you're breaking free from fear. Chapter 3. Turning Every Day. Encounters into Practice. Learning to speak English doesn't always mean sitting in a classroom or reading a textbook. Some of the best opportunities to learn come from everyday moments, buying groceries, taking a bus, or chatting with a neighbor. These small interactions are like mini lessons in real-life English. Once I realized this, I began to see the world around me as my classroom. I remember one morning when I went to a bakery. I wanted to buy a loaf of bread and some cookies. At first, I thought about pointing to the items, but then I decided to speak instead. "I would like 1 loaf of bread and 6 cookies, please," I said, a bit nervously. The cashier smiled and said, "Sure, anything else?" I shook my head and said, "No, thank you." It was a simple exchange, but it made me feel proud. I had used English in a real situation. That day, I realized something important. Every conversation is a chance to practice. Whether it's asking for the price of apples at the market or ordering coffee at a cafe, these moments help you improve. They teach you new words, show you how people naturally speak, and build your confidence. One of the best ways I practiced was by asking questions. Whenever I didn't understand something, I asked, "What does this mean?" or "Can you explain this?" People were always kind and willing to help. For example, at a store, I saw a sign that said, "Buy one, get one free." I asked the cashier, "What does this mean?" She explained, "If you buy one item, you get another one for free." That simple question taught me a new phrase and made me more comfortable asking for help in the future. Another thing I did was talk to myself. It sounds funny, but it works. When I was cooking, I would say, "I'm cutting the vegetables. Now I'm adding salt." When I was walking, I would describe what I saw. "There's a red car. The flowers are beautiful." This helped me think in English and get used to forming sentences. Even though nobody was listening, I was practicing. I also started to look for small challenges. For example, at the library, I would ask, "Can you recommend a good book for beginners?" At the bus stop, I would ask, "Which bus goes to the park?" These questions were simple, but they helped me practice starting conversations. Listening was another big part of my learning. I paid attention to how people spoke around me. On the subway, I listened to announcements like, "The next stop is Times Square." Having these phrases ready made me more confident in real conversations because I didn't have to think too hard about what to say. Finally, I made a habit of asking for feedback. When I spoke to friends or teachers, I asked, "Can you tell me if I made a mistake?" Most people were happy to help. They would gently correct me or suggest a better way to say something. This helped me improve quickly because I learned from real interactions. One of the most important lessons I learned was that consistency matters more than perfection. I didn't have to practice for hours every day. Even 10 minutes of shadowing or using an app made a difference if I did it regularly. The key was to stay consistent and keep trying, even on days when it felt hard. These methods, shadowing, recording, using apps, talking to myself, and asking for feedback, helped me improve step by step. They made learning English practical and fun. Each technique taught me something new and brought me closer to fluency. If you're looking to improve, start with 1 or 2 methods that feel comfortable. Then add more as you go. It's not about perfection, but about practicing, learning, and enjoying the process. With these tools, you'll see progress and feel more confident every day. Chapter 6. Celebrating Progress and Looking Ahead. As I near the end of my English learning journey, I've realized that progress deserves to be celebrated, no matter how small. Every effort counts. At first, I was focused only on fluency, but now I see that every success is worth acknowledging. I remember the first time I had a short conversation in English without feeling nervous. It was with a stranger at a bus stop. We talked for a minute, and I felt proud. That moment reminded me of how far I'd come. I made it a habit to reflect on my progress each week, asking myself, what did I learn? Writing down these reflections helped me stay motivated and see my growth. Celebrating progress doesn't always mean waiting for big milestones. Small victories, like ordering food in a cafe or understanding a sentence in a movie, are proof that you are moving forward. One way I celebrated my progress was by rewarding myself when I reached a goal, like learning 30 new words. These rewards, whether a favorite snack, a walk in the park, or watching a movie in English, made the journey more enjoyable and gave me something to look forward to. Sharing my progress with friends and family also kept me encouraged. One friend said, "A few months ago you couldn't even say a full sentence, and now you're having conversations." That feedback made me feel proud and motivated to keep going. Looking ahead, I realized that learning English doesn't stop once you feel comfortable. There's always more to explore. New words, new expressions, and new ways to communicate. I set new goals, like improving my storytelling to keep the journey exciting. Imagining myself traveling, making friends, and feeling confident kept me motivated through challenges. Every effort today brings me closer to my future self. Learning English has been more than just mastering the language. It's been about building confidence, forming connections, and discovering new parts of myself. It has taught me patience, perseverance, and the value of trying, even when it's hard. To anyone learning English, celebrate your progress. Every word, sentence, and mistake are a step forward. Don't wait for perfection. You're already doing something amazing. Keep setting goals, keep practicing, and keep believing in yourself. Fluency is not just about knowing the words. It's about having the courage to use them. With every step, you're getting closer to your dream. Keep going. You've got this. Bye for now.